This is just a quick video overview of some ideas about how you may want to use some digital tools and technologies inside the classroom, perhaps to try and increase student engagement or to provide inclusivity that everybody can have a chance to ask or answer a question. Throughout the demo, we're going to look at a couple of different tools that you might want to use, some that are in Moodle, access via the add activity and resource option that you use already, some which are web-based and are free for certain portions of it. So the first one I'm going to have a look at is a web-based tool called Padlet. There's a little description up there that tells you what it is, but it's pretty much like an online flip chart, so you can have post-it notes that you can put on there with questions, or post-it notes that the students put on there with feedback. So basically you can see I've structured it within a Moodle course, because if you're doing any of these sort of tools within the class, then it might be useful to put them onto the Moodle page because all the students are familiar, so that if you've got links that you want them to follow, they can go from the Moodle site. So in this example here, our activity 1 is a Padlet activity, so you would give them the web address to click on or to type into the browser. And in the case of Padlet, what would happen is once they'd gone through the link that you'd given them, they'd be able to see something similar to this, depending on how you've set it up. It may be a totally empty board, in which case the pink button in the bottom right hand corner is there for anyone to use to just add a post-it note to the board with a question or with a comment. The one that I've set up here is where the teacher has set up two pre-existing post-it notes to get opinion and answer questions. So as you can see in the two post-it notes that are there, there's two questions that have been posed and everybody in the class can add a comment, so it's anonymous. So obviously, you know, we want students to treat it with respect, but you also gives them more of a chance of giving their true opinion because of the anonymity. And you can just have this post-it note will grow and grow with all the different comments. You can delete them if needs be. Even if you put pre-existing post-its on like this, the plus button in the bottom right is always there if they want to add another question. The next web-based tool that we'll look at is something called Mentimeter, which some of you may have already used. It's very similar to Turning Point for anybody who has previously used clickers, or the more recent version of Turning Point where students can use their mobile phones instead of the clickers we used to have. But Menti is a free web-based tool. It's free in as much as you can use it to a certain degree without having to pay anything. So you can see on the bottom there a maximum of 2 questions per session, so each session will have a code that the students have to enter in. So if you're using the free account, you can have as many codes as you like, so you can set up as many 2 question sessions, but no more than that. So this example I'm going to show you where there's 2 questions in this session. So again, going from the Moodle site, you would say to them, in this activity, go to menti.com and use the code, and there's always a 6-digit code. And you can see once you're in Menti, I've just got 2 screenshots there of what's the student view and then the tutor viewing the responses afterwards. So I've only done 2 question types. This one is a short text question, so basically they're entering a word. So I wanted them to put in what 2 technologies you use the most, so you would put a word in the first and in the second. When everybody had put their opinion in, the tutor view of the same question, I've asked to show it as a word cloud, so you can just see the answers with the most responses are bigger, so Moodle in this case, and obviously this is just a demo, and there are multiple ways you can display the answers, bar charts, etc. So this one is just showing you how one of the questions might work. The second question in my Menti activity is just a multiple choice, so you can choose one of the options. You can't see it in the screenshot, but these 3 images that the students can choose from are little animated GIFs, so it just kind of livens things up a little bit. So they choose option 1, 2 or 3, and again there's multiple ways the tutor can view the responses. In this case I've just done it as a simple bar chart, where in the demo the person chose this middle option 2. The next activity we'll have a look at is a Moodle tool, so it's called H5P, and H5P allows you to build interactive learning objects. For anyone who's used Xerti before, and I mentioned Xerti on the next screen, it does a similar thing to that, where you can just create little activities for students to work through. So in this demo that we've got on here, it's a simple sort of hotspot activity where you've got a number of pictures or images and the students need to click on it. So in this case, it's an example one with vegetables. And you can see here that when, depending on what answers the students give, there's some built-in feedback at the bottom there that you can create. And the feedback that you can create is obviously for right and wrong answers and some additional feedback should you want to. The demos for any of the H5P questions that you're going to see, you can go to their website and have a look at them, because these are just embedded versions of their demos. So if you want to go and have a look at these in more detail and see there's lots and lots of other question types that I'm going to show on here, you can go to the website and have a look. If you're interested in having a go in Moodle, as I said before, if you use the add an activity or resource option, and you'll see an option for H5P. And just to repeat, anybody who's used Xerti before or wants a similar tool, you can go to this web address and we have Xerti available to all staff and students. Just another example of an activity you can do in H5P. I highlight the words, so you identify which words you want the students to click on, and then they get a number of points depending on which ones they get right and wrong. The final H5P example I'm going to show is an interactive video. Now, you can't see the sort of stages in this, but along the bottom you'll see that there's some bookmarks. So throughout this video you can bookmark to stop the video and have a little activity. So, and you can see on the screenshot at this point in the video, you can stop, click on multiple choice quiz, and it'll ask you a quiz about the content so far. Similarly, you can stop and put like additional little comments on the screen, so it just adds layers of interactivity on top of videos that you might already use. The next activity type I'm going to show is from Microsoft Forms, which is available to everyone. It's part of Office 365, and I've linked it to the previous activity where we looked at some H5P hotspot activities, interactive video, etc. And so what I've done here is very quickly create a Microsoft form where the students can click on the link. They then are asked which of the objects did you prefer. This particular layout is just using sort of like a star rating, but you can have Leica, etc. And so very quickly you can kind of gauge which of the learning objects the students enjoyed using or got the most out of, and you can use this for a whole range of things. So it was just to show sort of another tool, Microsoft Forms, which can then be used in conjunction perhaps with other activities or standalone, which there's an example of that at the end. Going back into the Moodle tools that we already have, this activity we're going to look at is using the choice tool, and then the following one is going to be around the chat tool. So again, I've just shown the screenshot of the Moodle course because it will help structure when you want to do these activities perhaps, and from an ease of use, just a familiarity again for students to say the link to it is via the Moodle course. This example of using the choice tool, well, there's two examples on here. One again is to sort of like gauge opinion, what do you want to know more about, might help planning for revision sessions or things that you need to go over if there's any sort of conceptual sticking points. In the first screenshot you can see that as well as the choices here, because this is a teacher view, there is a view responses in the top right, so as the tutor you can see who's chose which response and if you need to provide any extra help, etc. This can be done here, but for the students it's kind of anonymous. They can see how many students have answered but they don't know who. Similarly, the other example of understanding the assignment brief is again to see if there are any things you might want to go over, and it's a very quick activity you can set up, gives the students something to do on their phone, makes it a little bit interactive and useful at the same time. There is a chat tool in Moodle, which is a little bit like instant messaging in lots of other tools that we have. So in this example I've made it that there'll be a 60-minute live chat available via this tool, and you would set that at a certain time or date, and when the students click to enter it, you can see in the other screenshot it'll show on the right hand side who's in the chat, and then there's a very simple messaging button at the bottom where they can type in their message and send. So you could have these available. Some people have used them for like group chats, so that they use the restrict access in Moodle so that groups can have their own chat window that you can go in and talk as the tutor should you need to. Obviously the normal sort of moderation and user guidance needs to be put in if students are kind of chatting in these forums, but again it's a nice way to provide some interactivity, give chance for everybody to ask a question or to make a comment that sometimes isn't possible to do just in the physical classroom. Finally, I thought I'd finish on the standalone use of perhaps Microsoft Forms that we mentioned earlier. So at the end of a session, I've just created this session feedback form, which is again very simple. What one thing you've learned, one thing you're still unclear about, an end of class activity that all students can do on their phone perhaps. When they submit them, you can set it up to be anonymous or not anonymous, however you want to have it, but you can see in the screenshot in the bottom right, when you go into your Microsoft Forms area, you can see that in the session review one I've got 5 responses, and if I click on it I can have a look and see what the responses are. So it's a very quick and easy way to gauge opinion and get responses at the end of a session. Thank you for watching and listening. If you have any questions, please contact Asti at the email address shown on the screen. If you're interested in the Moodle activities, if you go to any Moodle page and staff help, you'll see all the online help we've got, and there's a course in there called More with Moodle, which will show you a lot of the kind of choice tools and chat tools, and hopefully there's links on all the other screens where you can get help for the other tools. But email if you have any questions. Thank you.